Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Never underestimate the power of the Scout's Code. Code. 2, 3, Scout's Code. Code.
Hello everyone, this is the Tech Bytes RSU channel, wherein techie and fun stuff happens. In this video tutorial, we're going to learn how to disassemble and assemble your personal computer system unit. We should take some safety precautions before we start disassembling our system unit. First, unplug the computer, then wear an anti-static wristband. If you don't have one, simply touch any grounded metallic objects. First off, unscrew the two screws on the back of the computer. On most computer cases, there will be large knobs that you can unscrew by hand or by screwdriver on the back right side of the computer. Once you remove the screws, simply slide the panel towards you or towards the back of the computer. Once the internal parts are exposed, remove all the wires attached to the power supply, motherboard, hard disk drive, and optical drive. Tip: some wires have locks at the side, so you might want to check it out before unplugging it. The power supply box is located at the top rear of the computer chassis. To remove it, simply unscrew the screws holding it from the back. Once you're done with the screws, you should be able to lift it and put it aside. To remove the optical drive, unscrew the two screws holding it on its case. Then from the inside, push it gently as it comes out. In removing the hard disk drive, like the optical drive, unscrew the two screws holding it on its case. After that, put the hard disk drive away with the other parts. In removing the motherboard from each chassis, locate all the screws on the circuit board. Then using a screwdriver, unscrew it. After removing the screws, you should be able to lift the motherboard and put it aside. Now, in removing the RAM, gently press the tabs on each side of the memory slot. In removing the CPU fan, you can see that there are 4 push pins at each of its corner. To unlock it, notice that there are arrow engravings. Turn the push pins 90 degrees pointing the arrows inside. You should be able to lift it after that. In removing the CPU, first, press the lever of the retention bracket metal piece and gently lift it along with the bracket. Then put your thumb on the notch between the CPU and its socket. Carefully lift it by its sides. The CPU has some sensitive pins below. We have done it, Summoner. Great job for keeping up with us. But hey, we're not done yet. One should not insert a CPU so carelessly. Hold it by its sides, then put it back in the socket without rubbing the pins. Then, secure the CPU inside the retention bracket with its lever. In installing the CPU fan, turn the 4 push pins with its arrow engravings pointing outside. After doing that, position the fan just right on top of the CPU, making sure that the pins are positioned right on its holes. To lock it, press 2 push pins opposite with each other until you hear a click. Repeat with the other 2. In installing the RAM, position it on top of the memory slot and with the light force, press it down until you hear a click indicating that it's already locked. Now that our motherboard is all set, let's prepare our chassis for the installment of the motherboard. For installing the motherboard, position and align it inside the chassis just right on top of its screw holes. Put the screw back using a screwdriver. In installing the hard disk drive, position it inside its case. Then using a screwdriver, screw it. To install the optical drive, slide it back inside from the outside. After that, position it on the screw holes. Secure it using the screwdriver. In installing the power supply, put it back on its position on the top rear of the chassis. Make sure to align it with the screw holes. Then using a screwdriver, secure it. Cable connecting has no specific steps to follow. Here, we started with connecting the CPU fan power cable on its designated header. Then, connecting the SATA cable between the DVD drive and the motherboard, starting from the second lowest numbered motherboard SATA gigabytes per second header to DVD. After that, we plug in the 24-pin ATX main power connector from the PSU to the main power header on motherboard. The pin shapes match the pin sockets and can only be inserted in one way. Make sure the clasp locks to the header. Next is connecting the power rail with SATA connector from PSU to HDD. After that, we connect a SATA cable that came with the lowest motherboard SATA 6GB per second header to HDD. Connect power to CPU by plugging in the 4-pin CPU power connector from the PSU to the CPU power header on the motherboard. Now, in connecting the front panel connectors, namely the power button wire, reset button wire, power LED wire, and HDD LED wire, usually you just have to find the front panel header on the motherboard, and it has its own corresponding name engravings to where which one of the wires should be connected to. Just connect the wires to its corresponding place. If your motherboard has no name engravings onto it, refer to the diagram below for the order of panel connectors. Then, connect USB 3 wire from the case to a USB 3 header on the motherboard. If your case has only a front panel USB 2 cable, then connect it to USB 2 header. Finally, connect case's front panel audio wire to front panel audio header on motherboard. Align it accordingly and insert it. Now finally, put back the side panel on the chassis. Secure it with the knobs or screws on the back using a screwdriver or by your hand. Then voila! We have assembled our very own system unit.
Never underestimate the power of the Scouts code. Code. 2, 3, 4 code. Code. 2, 3, 4. Yes, sir. 2, 3, 4 duty. Armed and ready. Yes, armed. 4, 2, 3, 3, 40
ninyo.
Underestimate the power of Captain Timo.
Victory!